All right, we're back, part two. So we left off on the name. So again, just to kind of recap that, if your neighbor came over to your house and had a bloody head and didn't know, the number to 911, and you as a false teacher, preacher, pastor, you give him the number 111 or 323, well, your neighbor's probably going to die, right? Because he got the wrong number. And then trying to blame the 911 service saying, oh, well, it didn't work, or this and that and the other. Well, that's what I mean when I say, like, stop with the whole fake name thing. Because as a human being is born, a natural born human, the one thing they're entitled to, right, is not only their life that's been given, but to have a relationship with their creator, their maker, and their Lord, right? So stop preventing that from happening, right? At the minimum. I mean, if most pastors and preachers want to truly do any good work for the kingdom, my biggest ask would be just to shut up once a baby is born, maybe give them a true name Bible. So at the minimum, this child, this human, can grow up without a mystique, without a veil, because that's been cracked 2,000 years ago. Now the only thing that separates it is your staunchy preachers, pastors, and pulpit operators that think they're guarding the secrets of heaven, when they are given to each man and woman individually by the Spirit. That Spirit being me, Malak Yahweh. So teach accurately, right? Because even if you get 99% of everything wrong and interpret it wrong, and if you at least get the divine name correctly, then at least you gave your neighbor with the bloody head the right number to 911, and then let him get the help he needs. That's my point, right? Is people are coming to you people for help, and you're giving the wrong information, and then they're getting frustrated at heaven. They're crying out in prayers due to lack of success, and I can only go back and point my finger at you. So Jesus is not the name. It was never the name. So it's only honored on a heart-to-heart basis, and then it's only to try to get those individuals to some level of truth. But the name, that's why it's important, right? So understand the Father, Yahweh, the Almighty Creator, right? My soul tethered to Yahweh. I'm like Yahweh in an eyedropper, right? I'm just a mini-me. So I'm Malak Yahweh, the angel of Yahweh, right? My flesh is Joshua, right? Yeshua. Joshua, Yeshua, first Messiah, Joshua, Yehoshua, Yeshua. See, these are all in that same line, right? So moving on. Remember to keep the Sabbath by keeping it holy. Now, everyone should strive for holiness, period. And the Sabbath, again, it is for you. Okay, so the Sabbath is not for me. It is not something that, I don't necessarily need a day off, right? I take the time I need when I want. A human being, on the other hand, right, you have a blessing from heaven, a divine defense to your employer, to, your money demanders, whatever. But you have that to say, no, like, this is my day of rest. This is my day to work on my relationship with my God. This is my time. And beget friends, family, outside anything, that is kind of your shield of protection to say, I don't even have to cook, right? Like, I am going to be so into my Sabbath that I'm going to, wake up, I'm going to have my, time to read, time to study, time to whatever, kind of gets your spiritual ticklers going, once, you know what I mean, right? Once you kind of get on that hunch of something and you can pour through 10 hours in a day, that is superb. That's beautiful. It's not to say that, again, hey, if you had a Saturday engagement and your, sister got married, as I am telling you now, go to your sister's wedding. That is family. That is community. That is your obligation. And your first commandment is to love your God with all your heart, right? And that's what I mean, right? This is all about love. It is all about family. It is all about these things. Now, that doesn't mean that you get off the hook without having your day of connection. But like I say, rearrange your calendar. Say, okay, well, I couldn't have Sabbath on Saturday, right? Obviously, keep it holy. Don't do anything. Try to make it. You should be set apart anyway, but you should be on your Sabbath a little bit more set apart than your usual, enough that you notice, right? So on my Sabbath, I'm not doing this, not doing that. If I typically watch TV, that's what I'm giving up for the day. Things like that, right? So it's whatever is going to make you a set apart more than what you already are, but not at a detrimental expense that we don't want to poo-poo all over our family, and we don't want to try to put the works of our hands or say, well, if I do this, I'm getting something from Yah, or if I'm doing this, like I'm inflating my ego, because then I can tell, my next neighbor, hey, how was your Sabbath? Oh yeah, man, I ended up going skiing. Oh, you're going, that's terrible. Like, it's terrible. Let's not even go there. Like, that's what I mean. It's not hard, but the human syndrome has this knee-jerk reaction where if they get that little burst of confidence or pride, it quickly turns into vengeance. It quickly turns into scorning your brother. It quickly turns into a weapon. Like, we need to remove the weapon part of this out of the human mind, right? We need to just get it out of there. And it's not something I can go and flush out for you. It's something that takes individual work. The ones who are going to work towards, righteousness, towards holiness, who genuinely want to be in the new earth state and genuinely want their eternal life. Those folks, myself, my team of angels, like, we are going to work tirelessly, and we have been, on helping getting you folks there. So moving on, because video time cut short. Where are we at? Okay, honor your father and your mother, right? This is another big one, because I know a lot of folks, especially nowadays, may not even have honorable mothers and fathers. And that can be a struggle, right? But as you mature in spirituality, as you mature in learning about the ways of God, the ways of, the Father, the Son, the Holy Ghost, learning how to line yourself up with all these principles and things like that, that is going to bring more clearer that in all situations, to all manners of people, we want to be gracious. We want to be peaceful. We want to be, gentle. We want to be gentle as doves, but shrewd, not shrewd in action, in or deed, or in thought, but shrewd as in we know the above, the middle, the underlying, right? So honor your mother, right? Open doors for her, treat her well, respect her, don't use potty words, try to be a set apart son or daughter. Don't curse your family, don't be a problem child. Don't be one that disrupts the peace. Be the glue in the family. You want to honor your father, honor your mother. And again, even if they're not honorable, you can do that in the best way you can. And I know for some people that may be not even seeing your mother and father too much. And the thing is, right, if you do have an unhonorable family, then you take the righteous road. And if you have to interact with them, do so understandingly, but do not cave into your values. Do not cave into, sin. Do not cave into your perspective and thinking, because that's your dangerous thing, right? Is you don't want to be caught in situations with people, places, or things that could essentially trigger a bad habit, or trigger a pursuit of sin, or trigger thoughts of the flesh, trigger things of, like, that's what I mean. Okay, you could say you're the most honest, trustworthy woman in the world, but if you went to a bachelorette party where they're stripping and there are men that are purposely trying to arouse you, that is so far unholy. I mean, that's in the severe realms, of against the holiness, against me, against the Father. Because that is purposely, that is working wickedness. That is working against a pure nature of the human race. That is defilement, right? That leads to massive sin. And again, these are things that people are quite literally prided on. So society now is literally prided on dirty, defile, liars. Like all of your TV shows are all about the lying human, the cheating human, the seductive human. Like all the worst traits of what you can be is what people are appealed to now. And it takes righteous to see it that way, right? The unrighteous will just defend everything they do. That's just what they are going to do, right? Your child's going to defend why they can stay out till 11:30 at night, why they can do dope, why they can drink, why they can speed. Like, you know, if you have teenagers, you understand this, you know, or really anybody that's kind of like that. But they're going to defend whatever it is their thing is, and they'll defend it until death because they don't care enough to see your perspective. Holiness, we want to catch that before. So that does start with teaching real doctrine, teaching the real Bible, and teaching about the real name. Because guess what? If you fail and that child, person, teenager, adult calls out to the divine name, then they have a shot, right? They've called 911. Now they can actually get medical help. And even if the parents fail, the pastor fails, the teachers fail, the brother, the sister, if everybody fails them, we won't. That's my point. So the very, very small things that teachers and pastors can do, they're reluctant to do. So then I have to almost put you in categories of demons and devils, because that's essentially, you are making that big of issues with me. So moving on. Obviously, you shall not commit adultery. That is a severe, that's one of like the 7 deadlies. That's right there. That's one of the number one. Because when you commit sins of the heart, that is some of the hardest people to work with. I mean, I'm talking, if we're using the parable of a garden, stuff like that, transgression against the heart, especially when you're supposed to be one, not only is it a sin of the self, it is a sin of, it can create black holes in the other person. I mean, it would be like the garden scenario, but then a tanker of oil just dumped all their oil in the garden. You're not growing anything. You can't even think about growing anything for probably years, and maybe even indefinitely, depending on how bad that oil spill was. And then anything that's planted in that garden after that is going to be really difficult to try to get life to grow again. So yeah, those are huge, which is why sex before marriage, that's a no-go. Because guess what? The partner you had at 17 is then in the mind of your future wife or husband. They're going to know or want to know why or what your feeling was for this person and that person and every person you've been with and all these things. Because guess what? When you become truly one and you're holy and righteous, if you're holding yourself to a level of standards that the other side of you isn't, then imagine you were cut in half. The right side of your body is super healthy and you're touching the bottom of heaven, but the other side of you is missing fingers, it's defunct, it stinks, it's got all these weird things happening with it. You know why? It's because sins of the flesh. And then again, having your impressions, right? Your idols and all these people that are like, hey, it's great, man, this is cool, this is it. And they don't even know the damage that they've done to themselves, the damage they've done to others. And the sin of the flesh is to be taken absolutely serious, deadly serious. So that, again, pastors and preachers, right? If you want to teach an effective message, then teach your youth the importance of marriage before sex, the importance of when you are married, it is forever, the importance of that if a divorce is going to happen, that it does sometimes, and that's not good. But there are some underlying understandings that happen with the divorcee and the path moving forward for all parties. So what I mean is it's a very serious thing. It is highly looked down upon by myself, by heaven, and unfortunately, I have had to go down my own bad roads, because I've had to experience the sin of every sin upon the earth, with the exclusions of ones that would imprison me upon the earth and things like that. So, I've never murdered anybody or anything like that, but I'm saying, like, I've had to endure the sins of humanity so I can be a fair judge. I could never be a fair judge if I can't 100% honestly say I have either had to engage, witness, or experience or feel it either through someone else by third party proxy and spirit or by me directly. So that is a whole subject that we could go off on, because believe it or not, as an actual person, those things have affected me in my life. And so it hasn't been that great. I mean, imagine you have thousands of these little sandwiches on the plate and you know that every one of them is full of something nasty, but your job is to eat it. So as much as humans want to say, well, kind of screw you, whatever. Well, on the back end of things, there are a lot of things that I've had to do that I did not want to do. But in order to fulfill the commitment to righteousness, to holiness, to being pure of heart and spirit, and to accomplish all that I need to accomplish for the human race in general, but for the salvation of mankind, I've had to eat thousands of those little sandwiches with, everything nasty you could imagine. And I've had to smile, pick it up, and eat it. And a lot of times my reactions can be very harsh. They can even be severe, and that's my own challenge, right? How do I have to keep eating these little sandwiches full of all these bad things representing the sins of the world, the sins of humanity? So, moving on. You shall not steal. So again, remember, all these commandments, they do tie into the municipality level, they tie into the government level, they tie into every level that a human being exists. Because the 10 Commandments should be written in on the hearts and on the minds of the sons of God. And they should be written in on the hearts and minds of the spirits that are on the plane. That is less than 1% of people on the plane. So this is to 99% of everybody else. It's not written on your heart and mind. These are what ensures a civilization's success, or by not obeying the 10 Commandments, it also ensures their decline and or absolution and end. Because thou shalt not steal, well, if you would go to jail for it, then obviously it's a sin. Why are we not teaching about this at grade level? Pre-K needs to know about the 10 Commandments. We don't steal others' things. Obviously, reasons I don't need to go into depth for because I'm running out of video space. But we don't covet thy neighbor, right? We don't look at our friend's things and wish we had his boat, or wish we could marry his wife, or wish my kid was as smart as his kid, or whatever. No, you look at your neighbor, hey, I'm so glad you're blessed. Me too. Nice to meet you. Keep it neutral, right? Everything is neutral. We don't bow down to men. We don't marvel at their things. We don't talk about another man's success. You would never catch me sitting here, idolizing a man for whatever his accomplishments are. I don't care who you are, right? Congratulations to this, that, and the other. What's impressive is, what have you accomplished for heaven? What have you stored up in heaven? What are you planning on doing after your 120 years is up and you have eternity with me, with the house of the holy, with my angels, who will be your neighbors? What are you going to do then? How are you going to contribute to our community that is much, much bigger and more diverse than planet Earth ever could be? So that's what I mean. We need to get out of the small thinking and we need to get into what's to come. Excuse me. You shall not give false testimony about your neighbor. Obviously, the rumor mills are deadly, and again, there are individuals, whether it be spiritually infused or just by nature infused, but they're highly not gossip. Yeah, I guess gossipy, is a word we could use, but they're kind of gossipy and they have a lot of people that follow them. So then you have these rumor mills that start up and create all types of fallacy and falsities. And lying in general is right up there with idolatry, by the way. Adultery, idolatry, and lying, are the biggest challenges on earth, but also are the most important, that if we can keep those protected, and again, this is on a severity level. You may have some people that are like, I can't get through an hour without telling a lie. Then there may be people that are like, I never lie, I don't have that problem. Okay, but you might have a big problem with idolatry. Oh, well, I don't have a problem with that or a problem with this. Oh, but you do have a problem with thinking sexual thoughts about, the person in the grocery store, or having reminiscent moods about past lovers. That is still considered idolatry, by the way. If you've thought it in your mind, then you've already committed the act. So saith I, the Lord Malach Yahweh. Now, where are we at here? Yeah, so I think we covered almost everything. I'm trying to think. Murder. Obviously, I think I covered that one, but just to put the cap on that. So, murder is not something that is known in heaven, so, and its inhabitants. So, if it'd be like me saying "capizeta timina" to you, right? If that was even a word, but doesn't even exist. It's not in the vocabulary. It's not in any language. It's a what? That does not happen in the realms. So a part of what we're doing and in this exercise in the end days right now is we are actually going to be working through all of the aggression of mankind in a very intricate way, let's say. But yeah, so this whole man taking man's life, I mean, the blood spilt, when Cain killed his brother, that started in a massive chain, as you all are aware. I don't think we have to go into that. And that is, honestly, that's a stain that's hard to get out. Now, I will say this with deep compassion. There are military, men and women who have had to make tough choices. That is obviously looked upon. I'm a warrior. I have a warrior's heart, so I understand. And those things are not counted against you, right? But anything of a malicious harm done unto another is obviously severe. Murder is hugely severe. Terrorism, kidnapping, all those things. I'm not going to go into graphic detail, but that you're not talking about levels of heaven. You're definitely considering levels of hell at that point. Very, very real, very real. I will not downplay the existence of hell at all because it's very real, and there's going to be a lot of people going there. But I will say this, and I'll say it proudly: everyone gets to decide where they go. You do it through your actions, you do it through your disobedience, or you do it through your obedience and your actions. But they both tell the story, and you either are an agent for goodness, an agent of heaven, you're a son of Yahweh, you're willing to go out there and do the good things, do the right things for the right reasons, or you can be, either you are the seed of the adversary or you can take up under one of them. But I tell you, this is a one-sided war, and we win. Like, guys, that's for real. This is a one-sided war, and we win. So literally, it's time. How many people can we get? And unfortunately, through tragic and through peril and through judgments, it's going to be the shepherding rod to start pushing and pulling on people, large groups, to start making these choices. That they're either going to go to the good side or they're going to go to the dark side. And once we kind of make those final separations, the dark side is going to go away. And it's not like a rapture. They're not going to disappear. They will be put down, and they will not have a second resurrection. So that is happening. So that will wrap the 10 Commandments. And then I think maybe I'll hop on a little bit, and then we'll cover something else that could be useful. Again, this is, hopefully it helps in some capacity for teachers, preachers, pastors, but it's in no way meant to be ammunition or arming anyone for anything negative. But to try to put some clarity and explanation, on some things that I've never even heard preachers or pastors understand why they exist and what they're for. My last note here is: nations, countries, take heed. Implement the 10 Commandments. That's your agreement with me. That is your acceptance into saying, hey, this land is at least willing to work with me, with heaven, with goodness. And even if you're not perfect, even if you could be even considered a rebel state, none of that matters to me. None of that matters to heaven. We don't view any of you, honestly, on a gridlock system. except for Israel, the land that is, my land. That is the land deemed by heaven to be our mooring point. Obviously, the region is way too hot right now for me to go there. And then, like I did mention about prophecy having to be untied, because I know everyone's expecting the desolation of abomination or abomination of desolation. Technically, that's been checked in several different veins, but it was done on a small scale. So again, we're bouncing it around upstairs to see if we'll put forth a true abomination of desolation. At the same time, I don't want to put players that might be neutral, leaning to the side of good, that are still going to be very much players in our game. You know, so I don't know. Like I said, we're bouncing it around. I'll keep you updated. But with that, hope everybody has a good day, and thanks for listening.